Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out the brand new Ultra Beast in the world of Pokemon Go, Guzzlord. Guzzlord is a Dragon and Dark-type Pokemon with the moveset of Dragon Tail, Dragon Claw, and Crunch. And this Pokemon has an insane HP stat, and it shares a similar bulk to Walrein in the Ultra League. So I got one from a remote raid, powered it up, and honestly, this thing performed extremely well for me. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Guzzlord in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, picking up an incredibly good lead, Escavalier into Obstagoon. Opponent will need to immediately save switch out of here, and they do into a Cresselia. So they are very, very weak to my Escav lead. I'm going to stay in and fire off the Mega Horn. This will do massive damage if it lands. Opponent is going to commit the shield. I'm going to stay in, wait for them to throw, and then I'm going to bring in my Giratina. This way they waste their energy, and now Giratina with a shield advantage should be able to put in a lot of work versus this Cresselia. Cress is going to be firing off the Moonblast. 2 Moonblasts are barely not enough to KO in this matchup. I'm going to farm up and then go for the Shadow Sneak. I'm very close to the back-to-back moves here. I'm firing off the first. That is going to start to get the Cresselia low, and I'm able to reach the second on CMP. I believe I should be able to tank this next Moonblast and commit to the farm down, so I am actually going to let it go. Bit of a risky play, we'll have to see. It lands, my attack drops, but my opponent gives up switch, and that works out really nicely for me. Had they chosen to stay in after that attack drop, honestly, they probably could have taken swap. They go for the Night Slash, I will commit the shield. I'll farm up to the Mega Horn and bait with the Drill Run, hoping that they decide to commit the shield. Drill Run onto the Obstagoon, goes unshielded, and unfortunately, they are going to be able to reach a final Night Slash. That will take me out. I'm putting all my faith into Guzzlord. Guzzlord able to farm down. We know they have the very low health Cresselia. What is that final Pokemon? And it's a Talonflame. And Guzzlord absolutely crushes Talonflame. As I mentioned at the beginning, Guzzlord has similar bulk to an Ultra League Walrein, meaning that even if they go for the Brave Bird like they do here, it's not enough to KO. Guzzlord tanks it, farms down the Cresselia, bring back in that Talonflame. Guzzlord firing off the first Dragon Claw. This one will get the shield, and then the final Dragon Claw is going to get the KO. Guzzlord closing strong and securing the win. Hopping into the next match, leading Escavalier into Alolan Muck. This is a very favorable lead for Escav. Opponent is going to save switch into Trevenant, and Trevenant meets its worst nightmare, which is Guzzlord. Unfortunately, the game does freeze there for a little bit, and I accidentally end up clicking on a Dragon Claw. Definitely not the best. They go for the Shadow Ball, but that just does absolutely no damage, as Guzzlord absolutely hard counters Trevenant. Trevenant is continuing to farm up. Guzzlord is going to be able to reach a Dragon Claw, and this Dragon Claw should be enough to KO, so that way I keep my Guzzlord very healthy. In comes the Alolan Muck, but if they want to Poison Jab down, they're going to have a tough task ahead of them because of Guzzlord's massive HP stat. Guzzlord reaches a Dragon Claw. Opponent trying to farm down, but Guzzlord refuses to die. Reaching another Dragon Claw, forcing a shield. Alolan Muck is going to farm all the way down, but by itself, Guzzlord has taken out basically 2 Pokemon and a shield. They go for the Dark Pulse. They're at back-to-back moves, so I am going to commit the shield here. Opponent is going to fire off an Acid Spray bait. In the back, they have their own Giratina, and I should be in a pretty nice spot here. I'm going straight for the Dragon Claw to try and inflict some damage onto their Giratina, because all I have to do at this point is land 1 Dragon Claw and then make sure that I can farm them to a point where a Drill Run is going to be enough to KO. They're going to fire off their second move, totally fine by me as this is not lethal. I'm going to let this go and continue to farm. This should be Drill Run range, so I'm going to go for the Dragon Claw. They're forced to use their final shield, and now all I have to do is just avoid a catch. So I'm going to bring in my Escav. They're going to fire off a charge move. I will commit the shield. Honestly, I had lost track of their energy. They go for a Dragon Claw. I continue to farm. Watching for the catch. They go for it. I farm down the Alolan Muck, and this game is over. Back in comes Giratina. Escavalier going for the Drill Run, taking out the Giratina, and that is a good game. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, a Scavalier into Alolan Ninetales. Definitely want to see fairy types on the lead. Opponent save switches into Cresselia, and this time I play it slightly differently, and I'm just going to go straight into my Giratina. Odds are I probably will have to go down a shield in this matchup, but at the very least, I can preserve quite a bit of HP on my Giratina, and hopefully get some damage off onto the Alolan Ninetales. They go for the Moonblast, that does quite a bit of damage, thankfully no debuff. I'm going to continue to farm up. They're at a second Moonblast, so I am going to respect it with a shield. Unfortunately, they are still not in a range where a Shadow Sneak is going to be able to KO. I'm hoping that with the Shadow Sneak, I'm going to be able to farm down, but unfortunately, as you're going to see here, they do barely survive, and I'm forced to throw a Dragon Claw on the CMP tie. Dragon Claw gets shielded. They are really trying for switch, and I am not about to let that happen, so I'm going to commit the shield. They go for the Moonblast, and I'm able to farm down. So I'm down a shield, but I have switch, and it's actually a Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales. I was definitely expecting Charm, but honestly, Powder Snow works well for me. It is going to be a bit tougher for them to farm down compared to Charm, and I'm going to be able to reach a second Shadow Sneak, so I get to apply a lot of damage onto this Ninetales. Ninetales continues to farm. I'm going to bring back in the Escav. In the back, they have Swampert, and Swampert is going to be met with Guzzlord. Honestly, in this matchup, I actually want to lose this matchup so I can get extra farm on my Escav. They go for the Earthquake. That's perfectly fine by me. I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw, and then my goal is to keep farming to force them to Earthquake. I continue to farm, Swampert, farming up, and they do go for the Quake. That is massive. Now I get the farm down on my Escav, and I should be able to reach 2 drill runs versus the Alolan Ninetales. Back in comes the Ninetales. They do have a lot of loaded energy, though. Ninetales is going to fire off the Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam plus Weather Ball is not going to KO. They need a second Gleam, and they are not going to be able to get there. Escav has the back-to-back drill runs. First one to get the shield, and the second one to get the KO. Down goes Alolan Ninetales, and our win streak continues. Great lead in the next match, a Scavalier into Shadow Walrein. This team is specifically built to try and bait out a Walrein with the Giratina save switch, so that way Escav can take it out and Guzzlord can close in the endgame. However, this time we catch it on the lead, so I should be in a very good spot here. I farm up some energy on my Escavalier, and now I can bring in Giratina into their Cobalion save switch. One Shadow Sneak is not going to be enough to KO, but a second one will be lethal. So I can tank this second Stone Edge, overfarm quite a bit, and then fire off the Shadow Sneak just to ensure that I get the KO. The one downside is preserving this amount of HP, it does set up Walrein for a pretty significant farm down. I fire off the Shadow Sneak, in comes the Walrein, but the nice thing is, since this is a Shadow Walrein, Dragon Claws will honestly add up. So I'm going to fire off the first Dragon Claw, that lands, and I'm going to fire off one final Dragon Claw just before they're able to take me out. Opponent probably not going to be committing a shield here, and I'm able to get Walrein below half health. This is enough for the Earthquake. Earthquake does not KO in the Ultra League, so I'll let this through. Earthquake does quite a lot of damage. In the back, they have Trevenant, and Trevenant gets hard countered by Guzzlord. Guzzlord farming up. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Decent lead in the next match, a Scavalier into Scrafty. Opponent save switches into Shadow Nidoqueen, and they are core broken by Escav. Let's go. I'm going to fire off the Drill Run to grab shield advantage, and then I'm going to bring in Giratina. They are going to be able to reach 2 Earth Powers versus Giratina, but with shield advantage, I can very comfortably tank one and shield one. They're going to go for the first. That does quite a bit of damage since they are the Shadow Nidoqueen. They continue to farm. This is enough for a second Earth Power. I will commit the shield, and they do go straight for it. So this will allow me a lot of flexibility in terms of overfarming. I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is going to get them low. I'm going to, again, overfarm and then fire off the Dragon Claw before they're able to reach a third Earth Power. Dragon Claw is going to KO. Opponent is going to bring back in Scrafty, but the unfortunate thing about this matchup, if you're Scrafty, is it's basically impossible to farm down. Because even though they do have the type advantage, I am double resisting their counters. I'm firing off another Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw gets them below half health. Scrafty continues to massively overfarm, letting Giratina get to Dragon Claw after Dragon Claw after Dragon Claw. I'm able to get the Scrafty extremely low, and Scrafty is finally going to fire off a foul play. I'm expecting they may blind throw, so I'm actually going to bring in Guzzlord here. I bring in Guzzlord in the back. They have Jellicent, and Guzzlord is proving to be a massive core breaker for teams so far in these battles. Crunch lands, look at the damage that does. I'm able to farm up and fire off the Dragon Claw. They have to shield this or this is gonna KO. Dragon Claw takes them out, back in comes Scrafty, and Guzzlord secures the win. Very tough lead in the next match, Scavalier into Giratina. I'm going to immediately switch into my save switch, which is Giratina, and unfortunately, I am met with Sylveon. The good thing is I'm able to bait out the Charmer, which should hopefully free up Guzzlord to close in the endgame. The bad news is that Sylveon does not have to throw a charge move or shield in this matchup, as Sylveon is going to be able to charm me down before I get to a third Shadow Sneak. I am farming, hoping that maybe the Sims are wrong, but they definitely are not, and they're able to comfortably farm me down and leave with a Moonblast loaded to fire at the Scav. That does quite a bit of resisted damage. I am going to be able to commit to the farm down here, which is quite nice. My switch timer is not quite up yet, so I will fire off the Drill Run from the Scav. This will do some chip damage, and now it's all up to Guzzlord. In comes Guzzlord. In the back, they have a Alolan Muck. Alolan Muck does have access to Acid Spray, which would be slightly scary, as if they chuck a couple Acid Sprays, these Poison Jabs, which are not doing a lot of damage now, are going to start to add up. So I am going to let this first move through, and it is the Acid Spray. These Poison Jabs are now going to be doing quite a bit of extra damage. I fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw does get the shield. I'm hopeful that I can try and farm down. If I can farm down and leave with the double Dragon Claws loaded, then I honestly feel like I have a pretty good chance here. I'm just going to full send it, going for the farm down, but they reach a last second move. I'm forced to burn my final shield, and I've definitely made a mistake. I should have just switched to reset my debuff because I don't have two moves loaded, and they can very comfortably no shield this, shield the Dragon Claw, and win the game. So this game was definitely a tough one. Lost lead, lost swap. Definitely felt like there were win cons that I missed, as unfortunately, Giratina will commit the shield. I do win CMP, but with no shields remaining, their Dragon Claw takes out my Guzzlord, and I receive my first loss running this Mon. Hopping into the final match, leading a Scavalier into another Walrein. Let's go. Opponent save switches into Trevenant, and we've seen this story before. This is just utter annihilation by the Guzzlord. They fire off a Seed Bomb, and my goal in this matchup is actually to leave with as much energy and as little health as possible. I want to try and deny Walrein farm in this matchup, so I'm actually going to be going for a Dragon Claw here. Crunch would hit for super effective, but in this moment, I actually don't want to take them out. Instead, I want to tank a Shadow Ball, farm all the way down, and leave with double Dragon Claws. This way, I get some pretty significant damage off on the Walrein, and on top of that, they're not going to get a lot of farm. So I'm going to fire off the first Dragon Claw. That's able to land. You know what? I can get to the Crunch. Guzzlord's tanky enough. May as well try and go for a debuff. Crunch, able to land. No debuff. I bring in Scav. In the back, they have Swampert, and things are looking incredibly good for me here. I'm going to bring in the Giratina. You know what? I feel like they're not baiting. I commit the shield. It's the Earthquake, and the opponent concedes the match. All in all, I was extremely impressed with Guzzlord. A Pokemon starting out ranked number 14 in the Ultra League on PvPoke is definitely going to have some high expectations, and I feel like, at least me using it, it met and or exceeded those expectations. This is a very, very bulky Pokemon, so it can take a hit, even as we saw a Brave Bird from Talonflame. The typing is a bit scary. It does lend itself to be a pretty cool core breaker, especially going up against like Trevenant Talonflame cores, stuff like that. But where Guzzlord can definitely struggle is going up against steel types, or of course, going up against fairy types. As taking double super effective damage, it will get absolutely destroyed. So honestly, final thoughts, I feel like it's a terrific new addition to the Open Ultra League, and honestly, a Mon that is worth rating to try and get. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.